We are finally back. A new Berserk chapter is finally here. Yeah, we actually get to talk about Berserk again. It's been a long year, I know, but hey, there's new chapters to enjoy, so that's nice. Last we left off, shit was getting weird fast. Guts was banished from the Kushan Empire after being blamed for the demonic attack, completely thrown under the bus by Daiba, who led him to an ancient temple known as a Stupa, a place of meditation that one can use to close themselves off from the world, a place of enlightenment. But it kinda earned the reputation as just being an execution chamber. Yeah, Daiba's plan's kinda cryptic. Even though he completely screwed Guts, he does seem to be working towards his own objective. Though the plan is so weird that even Salat can't really figure it out. The obvious assumption is that he wants the guy to face whatever's going on in his head and rise above it, since they need Guts to win the war against Griffith. And the newest chapter definitely seems to be going in that direction. We might be on the verge of a trip through Guts' mind, as grisly as that's gonna be. So, yeah, let's talk about the chapter real quick. It opens on Guts alone in the Stupa, now sealed inside and left to his own devices. It is completely dark. The guy is just standing in the middle of this pitch black chamber. He tries to step forward, his hand out trying to reach for anything to stabilize himself, but he trips, falling onto this patch of dirt in the middle of nowhere, a collection of roots stretching through the soil like a membrane. Guts picks himself back up and gets to his knees, at a loss of what to do. But he collapses once again, falling onto the ground and finally just sort of laying on the roots, stretching his limbs out and trying to adjust to the quiet in the void. On the ceiling of the chamber, you can see a mass of shadows building up. Guts' eyes slowly adjust to the darkness so he can see it as well, very similar to what happened to Griffith at the Tower of Rebirth when he was tortured, which is worrying. Outside of the chamber, we see Salat and Daiba are staying by. They haven't left even after it's gotten dark. Salat wants to know what's going on inside the Stupa, but not even Daiba knows. This ends up shocking Salat since Daiba seems to already know what this place is, yet can't tell him what's going on inside of it. But he explains that the Stupa is a temple that disconnects anyone from the outside. It exists to close off the outside world, to the point not even an experienced sorcerer like him can peer in. It's just empty darkness, a void that can drive someone insane. Salat wants him to explain things in a, clearer sense, but Daiba scoffs him off. The only way to explain it is that there's nothing inside. No light, no sound, just the man trapped with his own mind. The Stupa is a place of self-reflection, meaning all there is left for Guts to do is look at his own mind. Guts himself is still on the floor of the temple, watching the massive shadows spill from the ceiling down towards him, consuming his body, crashing over Guts like a wave, drowning him in this deluge of darkness. As Guts floats in the mass, he sees a singular light cutting through the dark, and this seems to get to him, just thinking to himself finally as the darkness melts away. And the light is shown to be a memory. It's of Casca and Griffith, before he became what he became. Then a second memory barges its way inside, of when Casca was stolen at Elfhelm, that image of her taken away, Guts reaching his arm out just like he did back then. And then you see the ground around Guts is no longer soil, it's an ocean, his body sinking down into the waves. As Guts sinks, he's captured by a clam, sealed inside by whatever energy or hallucination is around with him. The chapter ends here, with Guts sealed away as his mental battle, I guess, begins. And yeah, that's it. As you can see, this chapter is very much just the start of what's coming, of Guts facing his demons and finally coming to terms with what's going on in his mind. It's also a very show and not tell chapter. There's not a lot of dialogue in this one. Hell, the conversation between Salat and Daiba is basically the only talking you actually see, and it's very brief. Instead, this is very art-heavy, showing this metaphorical mental journey Guts is embarking on, which of course raises the question of how much of this is metaphorical and how much of this is, actual magic at play. Because one thing to note is that the Stupa has a tree growing outside of it, and the ground Guts is laying on has a bunch of roots scattered around it. It's very possible that this is actually a spirit tree, a place of very heavy magical power, which would make sense why Daiba would take him here. It was already a well-known site where Kushan monks would make a pilgrimage towards, and we did see on Elfhelm that there is a ritual among magic users where they could enter the mind of another, when Farnesan's Shrike went into Casca's mind. There's no doubt the Kushans themselves are aware of this ritual and just have their own version of it. So this is either purely a psychological manifestation, and it's the way Guts is thinking and feeling, or this is going to be a more literal journey through his head. because that means a few different things. We already saw the Stupa is considered a death sentence among Takushans. The only one who seems to know the true purpose is Daiba, which makes sense. The man's this experienced sorcerer who knows all kinds of different things magic related, but to everyone else, you just get sealed inside and die. Even Daiba admits most people go completely insane inside there, since it's basically a sensory deprivation chamber. So that raises the question of, if this is essentially a trial by fire, you go in to face your own mind with real danger if you fail whatever trial you're given, either by going insane or whatever manifests killing you, and we already know what's waiting in the recesses of Guts' head. So this could get ugly fast. Hell, there's already statements by Koji Mori saying the upcoming chapters are so fucked, even Miura himself had trouble coming up with it, even comparing it to the Eclipse, meaning this is going to be a grim journey, which actually makes sense. This is the head of Guts, the man who mastered psychological repression. There are mountains of nightmares in this man's head, even before he became the Black Swordsman. We already saw some of it slip out in Golden Age, where he was fucked up by the events of his childhood, and it's only gotten worse for the man since then. The guy's life has been hell, plain and simple. So that raises the question, what is he gonna see? We already saw he's been thinking about a lot of what he's faced, even on Elfhelm, all the horror and carnage. During the ritual where they entered Casca's mind, he was able to look back on it with a sense of contentment, that it was all okay now. But after Casca was taken, it hit him like a fucking horse that it was all for nothing. Because Casca was gone and he couldn't even touch Griffith. All the terrible things Guts did on his journey are about to hit him like a wave. That evil inside of him is about to make itself very apparent. The beast has been quiet for a long time, and now Guts is about to poke its cage. Of course, this is assuming that's what Koji Mori was referring to. It's still very possible he was talking about something else, because saying a story beat is about as bad as the Eclipse is a very big statement. It means a complete game changer with some serious ramifications, and obviously not very positive ones. Either it's referring to Guts exploring his own psyche, or it means we're about to have another perspective shift. Maybe we could see what Griffith actually has up his sleeve, since there's definitely a plan he's fomenting we're just not seeing yet, and whatever it is cannot mean good things. Lots of open questions right now, hard to guess where it's leading. Still, the idea of Guts going through his own mental journey like what happened with Casca could be amazing. That mini-arc was one of the best parts of Fantasia, and that was with Casca's head. Someone who, yes, was psychologically damaged, but not to the same extent Guts has been. Sure, she went insane, not even debating that point, and the things she saw were nightmarish. But Guts has sort of always been drenched in blackness. Hell, part of the reason he didn't crack like Casca was because he got so good at just focusing on a singular objective and closing off everything else. Just kill the enemy. Just murder Griffith. Just protect Casca. He throws away everything else to get a single thing done. That buildup is still there, all that wear and tear and psychological damage, but he simply represses it, forcing himself to stay together through sheer grit. Casca fell apart because she can't do the same. The Eclipse was enough to shatter her, while Guts forced himself to stay on his feet and keep going. Still deeply traumatized, still falling apart mentally at the seams, but moving nonetheless. It was only after Casca was taken that it just became too much and he finally snapped, the weight breaking him down and turned into a husk of a man. And the only way out of it is to take a trip through hell. He spent so long ignoring all the damage his own mind was taking, and now he has to confront it. He has to come to terms with all the shit he walked through. He had his positive therapy. The time with the party helped calm him down and realize he still had a life to live. Good people that could temper his rage and focus him as a warrior, even turn him into a hero in some situations. But he never thought about the weight, what it was taking from him, how much he was running on fumes for as long as he was. Guts has the potential to change the world, being in the right place at the right time and being crazy enough to cause ripples in the river. Even Daiba sees it as well. He's not just a warrior to use in a war, like a weapon, like what Salat wants. Guts himself is a tool of fate, whether anyone knows it or not. His whole life he's managed to cause major disruptions to anything he got involved in. Plans fall apart, and 1,000,000 to 1 odds become certain. Hell, Griffith saw it too. It's why he was recruited into the Band of the Hawk in the first place. Guts has sort of always been a disruptor. The 100 Years' War, a complete stalemate war that none of the experienced generals or soldiers had any answer for, was broken up by this white-haired twink and his crazy-ass friend that was really good at killing people, shifting the balance of power and leading to the eventual collapse of the Midland Kingdom, a collapse that happened as a consequence of Guts' actions. Leaving the Band of the Hawk caused Griffith to snap and have sex with Princess Charlotte, revealing the king as a madman who has Griffith tortured and turned into a cripple. And we see the king is still insane after the eclipse, wasting countless resources to hunt after Griffith to the point Midland starts falling apart. Even the God Hand's plans were warped after Guts showed up. He was the factor they couldn't bet on, surviving the eclipse and able to kill enough demons to get their attention. Sloan is obsessed with the guy, taking the risk to manifest in the physical world to speak with him directly, to tempt him to use the Bailet and make a deal. Skull Knight himself even told Guts that he has the potential to change fate through his actions, creating a ripple in the river that could change the flow instead of just being a shadow on the water. We already saw a hint of what this could mean with the Moonlight Child, a complete anomaly that has shackled Griffith to the last two ties to humanity he has left. Even Casca's survival is a defiance of fate that Guts constantly fights against. She was meant to die in the eclipse. She was meant to die at the Tower of Conviction. She could have easily died 1,000,000 times over during their journey. But because of Guts, she was able to keep going. If we want to get technical, even Guts' very existence is a paradox. He was birthed from a dead mother, stuck under her body for who knows how long until he was found by Shisu and Gambino. Guts is able to affect so much around him because he's kind of just always lived outside of the world in a way. He's a living X-Factor. To explain what I mean, here's more of a general breakdown on what is one of Berserk's biggest inspirations: shoujo manga, namely Rose of Versailles, but we'll talk about more just the idea of shoujo manga instead of that series in particular, since there's enough deviations to the point that it'll sound like even more of a stretch than it kind of already is. The actual story of Golden Age, when you remove Guts, is actually pretty cliche. A commoner rises the ranks to earn his own kingdom while balancing a love triangle. Griffith is the prototypical shoujo male lead, a pretty boy that's an aristocrat in one scene and playful, caring in another, able to sweet-talk a young naive princess despite their class difference, and wins her heart. Really, if you look at Golden Age from the perspective of Charlotte herself, it's actually a pretty basic Romeo and Juliet story. She loves this war hero and wants to be with him, but his status clashes with her family's and it causes problems. The battles are talked about in a removed sense. Griffith just stomps the enemy and comes home with a scratch, because Charlotte wouldn't be there in the midst of the carnage. Charlotte herself is a pretty common fantasy shoujo protagonist. Naive, slightly spoiled, a princess that thinks more with her heart than her head. Not a bad person, but young and stupid. You've probably seen a story like this 1,000,000 times under the shoujo tag. They're still coming out to this day, in fact, but Guts' mere presence shapes this entire world. The setting isn't a happy, fluffy fantasy world. It's dark, it's painful, it's horrifying more than once. You see the battles the Band of the Hawk fight, how nasty they are, grisly, and that each man who dies isn't just some background jabroni. They're men with histories of their own, motivations, which is why it eats away at Griffith. Part of the whole reason he makes the sacrifices he does is because of his survivor's guilt at costing so many lives to get this kingdom. Hell, you can argue that the reason Griffith is able to connect with Guts the way he does is because Guts is a savage. This man defined by this fucked up world of war and violence. He's not playing a character or is naive about the worst of human nature. It's why he was able to send him to assassinate Julius, because a guy like Guts doesn't see the action as horrifying, simply what you do. It's a shoujo setting looked at from the perspective of a worn-down, traumatized man. Everything is hellish, violent, and misanthropic. A tonal clash that is actually kind of part of the story. Everywhere Guts goes collapses and burns. From mercenary bands, to villages, to kingdoms, to entire fucking islands. He's a living paradox that causes carnage, whether intentional or unintentional. Yet Griffith, everything he does always seems to be building something up. A mercenary band, an army, a kingdom. Everything he does is always painted in this bright, beautiful light. And fans pick up on this contradiction a lot. I mean, hell, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this more than once in the Berserk Saga video. Griffith is always painted as an angel, meanwhile he's a demon. And Guts is always painted as a demon when he's just a man trying to find some manner of peace. Yet this paradox also shows the world for what it really is deep down. It's a place full of darkness and evil, not just from the demons, but the people inside of it as well. Hell, the demons come from human evil. The apostles are humans that make deals with a god hand for power, and the idea of evil is a self-made god coming from humanity's desire to understand the darkest parts of itself. Guts embodies this world, which is why he's able to change it in such massive ways. He's outside of the story, not just after Griffith was rebirthed into the physical realm when he literally rewrote reality or started working on rewriting reality, or even when he was branded during the eclipse. But from the minute he was born, he was always able to choose. It's why Griffith had a mental breakdown after Guts left the Band of the Hawk, because he never thought it was possible that a man could just choose not to follow. Granted, he didn't know why or that Guts actually still cared about them, but that's not really the point. The point is that Guts' strongest power in this entire story is just being able to choose. He's pig-headed, he's strong, he's one hell of a warrior, but his ability to choose his own path has always been what gives Guts an advantage above all else. He could have just blindly followed Griffith, but he chose to leave and find his own meaning as a warrior. And because he left, he was not wrapped up in the Band of the Hawk purge after what happened with Charlotte. Because think about it like this. Griffith's entire plan from the get-go was to groom Charlotte to be his wife, make her fall in love with him, and ensure that he will be the only one left to take the throne when it comes time for her to receive it. That's why he killed Count Julius and his son, that's why he killed the queen and a lot of her henchmen, to ensure he was the only option left. But with the revelation of the king's incestuous obsession with his daughter, that means this plan probably was never actually going to work realistically, because if Griffith even tried to slightly hint that he wanted to be with Charlotte, the king would have killed him. And if something went wrong, the entire Band of the Hawk would have been torn to pieces before they even realized what was happening. Hell, that's literally what happened when the real purge went down. But because Guts wasn't there, he was able to rush back and save what was left. Him rushing back to save what was left led to him and Casca truly admitting they were in love, then having sex. That encounter led to the Moonlight Child. He constantly makes these choices that end up rippling in one way or another, and those ripples cause drastic ramifications down the line. After the eclipse, he could have been consumed by vengeance and chased after the God Hand until he fell apart and died, but he chose to go back and save Casca. He would have ran himself into the dirt trying to protect her until he snapped, but he chose to let the party follow him. All these small choices that end up having big ramifications, one after another, is basically Guts in a nutshell. He's a short-sighted barbarian. All he thinks about is fighting. But because of that, he's completely unaware of just how powerful his choices can be. He is someone that can warp the very fabric of reality. Even Shrike pointed that out. Something about him just makes it to where what he does changes the world. Now, it'd be a stretch to call this a literal superpower because it's really not. It's just kind of a thing with Guts' nature. Because he's just sort of always been an outsider that when he actually speaks up and gets involved, things get weird very fast. And now, he's on the verge of another choice. He could either let himself be eaten up by despair, stay as this hollow vegetable that just wants to beat up on himself, or he can face what's in his head and rise above it to regain his strength and save Casca, and maybe even the world. It won't be easy, but it has to be done. The Stupa is known as just purely an execution method. Everyone who entered previously just ended up dead, but Guts is the kind of guy that makes the impossible a guarantee. The craziest son of a bitch out there. So it's gonna be exciting as all hell to see what's gonna happen in the next few chapters. We could be getting a trippy mindscape, another field trip through the head of a madman. But he doesn't have any friends to help him out like Casca. He has to do this on his own. Just like a lot of other struggles Guts deals with, it's a one-man show. I can't wait for the next chapter. This could be really good. Yeah, this one's all built up, I'm not even gonna lie. But that's how it is with Berserk, so it's whatever. Don't catch up if you're not prepared for the blue balls. But it's almost always worth it to be patient. That's what makes this manga so special, it's a great time. And I am going to add a note here. Please find a way to buy this series officially. I know people like watching these videos to avoid reading the manga, don't lie, we all know. But definitely throw some money this series' way. It's fantastic and it deserves it. And more money means they can take more risk with anime projects, maybe a game or two. Who knows where it could go? If Netflix ever tries a live-action adaptation, I'm going to kill some. The point is that Berserk is something that means a lot to not just me, but a lot of other people. So it'd be awesome to see more love thrown its way. Recognition-wise, it already has a massive following. It's getting up there with stuff like One Piece in terms of word of mouth. No reason that can't translate to more sales. Buy the volumes, the deluxe editions, the merch, stuff like that. Studio Gaga is working their ass off on this, and that's what we appreciate about them. But you know what else you should appreciate? Gamer subs. Use code TAL at checkout. Use the code. Use the code. The code's there. It wants to be used. Use the code. Use the code or Netflix will give 80 Shinkar the rights to Berserk. Use the code. That's all I have to say about the new Berserk chapter. Hopefully the next one won't take too long. I mean, I can't wait. See you guys.
Three blackbirds fly above my head. Three blackbirds fly above my head. Three blackbirds harvest of pretty hair. Darkness comes towards me, a gun is in my hand. Just another moment and we're together again. Three blackbirds fly above my head. Three blackbirds fly above my head. The first one is the morning, the second is the day. The third one is the dark night that brings me back to earth. As I reach a lone hill, soon I'm on my knees. I kneel beneath the oak tree where she and I did meet. A glance at the dark sky, counting three blackbirds. I think of my sweet bride, breathe in, 'cause this won't hurt.
Hey, loser. Do you want a shirt? Do you want a t-shirt? I have shirts now. Look in the description for a link to a t-shirt you can buy. If you don't buy the t-shirt, I'll kill your family. If you don't buy the t-shirt, I'll poison your dog. If you don't buy the t-shirt, you're going to be the only person in town that does not have a t-shirt. Everyone's going to look at you funny. There's going to be social consequences to not having one of these t-shirts. I'm now making express threats of violence against you if you do not buy my t-shirt. I will call the police, tell them how you're not buying my shirt. They're going to plant crack in your house, and they're going to arrest you and then beat you up in a jail cell. Buy my shirt.